Hi there, this is Chris, Chap in the Cap from Motolegends. Today I'm going to talk to you about an interesting boot from Italian brand TCX. Interesting in that it's basically a copy of the Daytona Roadstar, but it comes in at half the price of the Daytona. So this is the X-Tour Evo boot from TCX. It is a classic full-height touring and commuting bike. In all honesty, it's not the kind of boot that you're probably going to wear on a sports bike, especially if you're going on track. It's also not a super cool boot, but if you're a high mileage rider, doing a lot of touring, commuting on a daily basis, this is the kind of boot that is going to be on your agenda. But I think it's an interesting boot in one particular way, in that it's an almost carbon copy of one of the most famous and highly regarded boots on the market, the Daytona Roadstar GTX. In fact, so similar is it that I'm amazed that there wasn't a fuss when it came out, because there must have been copyright issues unless TCX had realized that the design copyright on the Daytona had run out. It is so amazingly similar, it's uncanny. I'm going to show you that in a second. The difference between this boot and the Daytona is that the Daytona is priced a little bit over £400. These days this is priced at just under £200. So you're getting a boot that not only in looks but in lots of the componentry is almost identical, but you're getting it for half the money. So what I'm going to do, I've got the other boot here, I've got the Daytona here, I'm going to show you both boots, I'm going to look at them, we're going to look at the details, and then at the end that's up to you to decide whether the Daytona is worth paying twice as much for. So this is the Daytona boot, and I'm hopeful that you can see from there that they are pretty god-darn identical. Let's go through the features, and you can come to your own conclusion. This is a full-grain leather. The TCX uses a full-grain leather. It's a full-grain leather chassis. The Daytona boot, I suppose this is one of the points of difference. I would have to say that the leather on the Daytona is a nicer leather. Daytona go to great lengths to get the very best leathers on the market. They are hydrophobically treated in the tanning, which means that they resist the water. Now, on a boot like this, the waterproofing doesn't really come from the leather. It comes from the membrane inside, and these have both got the same membrane. But if you combine a membrane with a hydrophobic leather, you're getting potentially higher degrees of waterproofing. So this is a better quality leather. I think it's a softer leather. It's a more supple leather. So that is certainly one of the differences, but this is still a full grain leather. In terms of the membrane, once we get inside, they are both Gore-Tex boots. And one of the things we know about Gore-Tex is that if you're going to have your boot or your jacket or your pants supplied with a Gore-Tex liner, Gore have to see the design, they have to approve it. So anything that's got a Gore-Tex liner, you know basically is going to work. If we look at the Daytona, if we look at how the comes down the front, and that's how the liner looks. If I do the same, obviously you've got the same twin zip arrangement here, similar looking shin pad, but if I do that here, you've again got a very similar looking waterproof membrane. So in terms of the waterproofing, I couldn't say that there was any difference between the way that these boots are going to keep the water out. That having been said, yes, we do have a slightly more waterproof outer leather. You've got the same in both boots, toe and heel protectors. There is in fact one point of difference with the TCX that makes it on one level potentially slightly nicer than the Daytona. Not that anyone's ever complained about this, but the ankle protectors and the shin protector on the TCX are actually by D3O. So that's a wee bit softer. This is a harder bit of plastic. This is softer. It's going to get softer as you wear it, hardens on impact. But to have D3O in this boot, I think that can only be a positive. You've got the same PU injected gear change pad here. As I've mentioned, you've got twin zips on both sides. You've also got Ykk Zips. Important to us, Ykk Zips is an indicator that a manufacturer is taking their responsibilities seriously. You can always save money. You can save a couple of dollars on a jacket, on a pair of boots by having non-Ykk zips, but a Ykk zip, when you fit it, you know it's going to last for years. If you're one of those manufacturers who just wants to get it beyond the guarantee period, so to last a year or 2 years, you cut corners, you don't use Ykk, but TCX have used Ykk Zips. You've got a similar, again looking at the similarities, you've got a calf adjusting system on the back of the boot. So that unvelcros. So if you're someone who has particularly wide calves, you can accommodate those with that arrangement on the back. And as you'll see, if I look at the Daytona, this is a feature of pretty much every Daytona, every tool at Daytona Boot. You've got pretty much exactly the same arrangement there. You've got the same, a little bit different in dimension, but you've got the same soft padded, I would call them articulation panels here on the front, but also at the back. And what that means is that the boot will bend a bit more easily because the leather is quite stiff. So this is padded, but it's also softer. It means that the foot can bend forward and backwards to a slightly greater degree than if you didn't have those. You've got the same, if I look at the back, you've got the same reflectors here. You've even got this same heel pad, and Graham will come in and do a close shot on this, but it's almost uncanny. This material that is here on the back of the heel for a little bit of extra durability, it feels exactly the same as the material that Daytona are using on their boot. You've got a replaceable sole on the TCX. Obviously you've got a replaceable sole on the Daytona, and I suppose this is one of the areas in which there starts to be a little bit of clear blue water between the two brands, because Daytona is legendary for the fact that you can send their boots back when you've had them, however long you've had them, 5 years, 10 years. We've had people who've owned the same pair of Daytona boots for longer than that. When bits wear out, you send them back to the factory, they repair them, the boot comes back, it's as good as new. So on a Daytona, you can have the gear pad replaced, you can have the zips replaced, you can have the entire waterproof system replaced, you can have a new sole. Now, you don't get that facility with TCX. You cannot, as far as I know, certainly we've never done it, you cannot send a TCX boot back to the factory and ask them to refurbish it, but you do at least have the ability to replace the soles. So TCX will have a supply of these soles, so it doesn't mean that as soon as your sole is worn out, and that's normally the first thing to go on a boot, particularly a high mileage touring and commuting boot, that's the bit that's going to go first. It's good to know that you can have that changed. So really, what are the differences? I've been through some of them. The leather, I think, on the Daytona is going to be nicer. It's a softer, more supple leather, and it's hydrophobic. The sizing is quite different between the two boots. Daytona's also always come up a little bit on the wide side. This is very much a standard fit. So even though this is the standard fit Daytona, it's certainly a wider fit than the TCX. And if you're someone who has particularly wide feet, one of the good things about Daytona is there is the medium fit, there's the wide, there's the extra wide. So there's almost ultimately no foot that cannot be accommodated in a Daytona. That's not going to be quite the same here. This is one of those boots. It's a regular fit. It's not particularly wide, but if it fits, it's great. But if it doesn't fit, then it just isn't going to work. One of the things that Daytona make a big play of in their boots, in all of their boots, is that they have a plastic runner runs down in the sole of the boot, and inside that they fit a steel shank for torsional rigidity. It's what makes Daytona boots particularly strong and tough, and if something were to drive over your foot, it is not going to collapse. It is a really strong boot. Now, there's no mention of this boot having a shank in the same way, but I have to tell you, I've tried to twist and turn this. I'm just not strong enough to affect any movement in the boot either way. So it's still a strong boot, but I would say that in extremis, in the margin, if you're looking for the ultimate in safety and protective qualities, there's still probably a little bit of clear blue water between the TCX and the Daytona. But remember, this is the standard in boot making. This is going to be as good or better than 90% of boots on the market. It's still a fabulous boot, but I've got to say that there's probably a little bit of a margin that puts the Daytona ahead. But there is a price difference. So the Daytona is just over £400. The TCX, at one stage I think it was priced at £260, £270, £280. It's now a £200 boot. It is being discontinued. We bought up a large number of these boots because we think it's a fantastic boot, and we reckon we've got enough to last us a year. But you are in essence getting a boot that, to all intents and purposes, is a Daytona boot. For most of us, there's going to be very little difference, but you're paying half the money. So is it going to last as long? Probably not, but of course what you have to bear in mind is you can get through a pair of these and then buy another pair of those for the same price as a Daytona. So that's where we are. Boots are very similar. The Daytona is the gold standard, but at £200, this is a phenomenal boot. So if you want to look at more touring and commuting boots, or maybe more TCX boots, then visit the website motolegends.com. If you want to learn more about this particular boot, then if you click on one of the links on the screen, sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there, that will take you directly to the relevant page on our website. There you can check out the spec in a bit more detail, you can check on availability, and if you really like the boot, you can obviously order one there and then. Now when you buy from us, we try to make the process as simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on anything you buy from us. Returns are free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have the best price guarantee in the business. John Lewis is rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find something that we sell being sold by a competitor at a price that is lower than ours, we will beat that retailer's price by a full 10%. If the retailer is in the EU and not in the UK, we will match their landed price. Now there are a few terms and conditions, nothing particularly onerous, but if you want to price beat us, then I suggest you visit the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. Now in the future, if you'd like to receive information about new products from us, then if you go to the front page of the website, in fact, any page of the website, at the top of the page, there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. If you click on that, within seconds you'll be in business. In future, you'll receive email bulletins from us. If, however, you prefer to get your information about new products videographically, in other words, in this form, we would be simply delighted if you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Now, this is 2020, and during 2020, we're running a little promotion. Before the end of the year, we're going to give away a little motorbike. We're calling it a Steve Mcqueen tribute bike. It's based on a Mutz 125cc machine. It's a lovely little cutie. You can read all about it on the front page of our website or on the home page of our YouTube channel. But you have to be a subscriber in order to enter into that competition. We'll be announcing the winner, I suppose, sometime before Christmas this year. Finally, I'd like to make a play for our fabulous shop here at Motolegends. We are based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. The shop itself is pretty small. It's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where we have more than £2 million worth of merchandise over 3 floors. Technically, it makes us the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the country. But we think that we are far more than just the quantity of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service. We're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. When you come and see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee or proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And if you're lucky, you might even get to taste one of Sean's mum's delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.